The crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across the marble floors of Le Bernardin, Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant, where a single meal costs more than most people's monthly rent. The soft murmur of privileged conversations mingles with the gentle clink of Waterford crystal, creating an atmosphere of refined elegance that masks the ugly truth about to unfold. Maya Chen moves gracefully between the linen-draped tables, her movements precise and professional despite the weight of exhaustion pressing down on her shoulders. At 28, she carries herself with quiet dignity, her dark hair pulled back in an immaculate bun that reveals the determined set of her jaw. The crisp white uniform she wears bears no hint of the Stanford MBA degree gathering dust in her cramped studio apartment, or the rejection letters from 63 companies that have deemed her not quite the right fit. The evening rush is in full swing when the hostess approaches Maya with an apologetic smile. "Table 12 needs immediate attention," she whispers, her voice carrying an undertone of warning. "It's Mr. Richard Blackstone." Maya's stomach tightens. She knows that name. Everyone in the service industry does. Richard Blackstone, the 60-year-old CEO of Titan Industries, whose net worth exceeds the GDP of small countries. His reputation for treating service staff like disposable objects precedes him like a toxic cloud. But in a restaurant where tips can make or break a server's month, even the most degrading customers must be endured. As Maya approaches table 12, she notices the man immediately. Blackstone sits with his back straight, his silver hair perfectly styled, wearing a custom suit that costs more than Maya's annual salary. His pale blue eyes scan the room with the predatory gaze of someone who views the world as his personal kingdom. Across from him sits a younger woman, clearly uncomfortable, fidgeting with her jewelry while he speaks in low, commanding tones. "Good evening, sir," Maya begins, her voice steady and professional. "I'm Maya, and I'll be taking care of you tonight. Would you like to start with something to drink?" Blackstone doesn't look up from his phone. "Yeah, get me a scotch. The good stuff, not the swill you probably serve to your usual customers." His tone drips with condescension, each word carefully chosen to establish his dominance. Maya's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly, but her training takes over. "Certainly, sir. We have a selection of premium single malts. Would you prefer Highland, Speyside, or perhaps an Islay?" For the first time, Blackstone raises his head, his cold eyes meeting hers with undisguised disdain. "Don't try to impress me with your little memorized script, sweetheart. Just bring me something expensive. That's all you people understand anyway. Money." The words hit Maya like a physical blow, but she maintains her composure. Years of similar encounters have taught her to swallow her dignity along with her pride. "Of course, sir. I'll bring you our finest selection." What Blackstone doesn't know is that Maya isn't just another server struggling to make ends meet. Behind her calm exterior lies a brilliant mind that graduated summa cum laude from Stanford, a woman who speaks 4 languages fluently, and whose master's thesis on international business ethics was published in the Harvard Business Review. What he sees is simply another service worker, whose worth he measures in the efficiency of her drink delivery. As Maya walks toward the bar, her hands trembling slightly with suppressed anger, she catches fragments of conversation from table 12. Blackstone is describing his latest acquisition, a chain of budget hotels that he plans to streamline by cutting staff wages and eliminating benefits. The woman across from him, who Maya now realizes is a business journalist, scribbles notes while looking increasingly uncomfortable. "The key to maximizing profit," Blackstone continues, his voice carrying across the restaurant, "is understanding that certain types of people are naturally suited for certain types of work. You can't expect a horse to do a dolphin's job, if you catch my meaning." Maya's blood runs cold. She's heard this type of coded language before. The polite racism of the executive class, dressed up in business metaphors and delivered with a smile. She returns to the table with the scotch, her hands trembling slightly with suppressed anger. "Your Macallan 25, sir," she says, placing the glass on the table with precision. Blackstone takes a sip and nods approvingly. Finally, something done right. "Now, I'll have the lobster, and make sure the chef knows I want it perfect, not the kind of mediocre effort I'd expect from people who can't do better than waitressing." The journalist shifts uncomfortably, her pen hovering over her notepad. "Mr. Blackstone, perhaps we should focus on the business aspects of your expansion plans?" "This is business, darling," Blackstone interrupts, his attention still fixed on Maya. "Understanding the natural hierarchy of things. Some people are born to lead, others to serve. It's not personal, it's just reality." Maya feels something snap inside her chest. 28 years of swallowing insults, of being told she's not quite right for positions she's overqualified for, of watching less competent people advance while she remains invisible. The careful mask of professionalism she's worn for so long begins to crack. "I'm sorry, sir," she says, her voice steady, but carrying an edge of steel that makes both Blackstone and the journalist look up in surprise. "I don't work for people who see only my color when they look at me." The restaurant seems to pause, conversations fading as nearby diners sense the tension crackling in the air. Blackstone's face flushes red, his eyes narrowing with the dangerous fury of a man unaccustomed to being challenged. "Excuse me?" he says, his voice low and menacing. "Did you just—" "I said what I said," Maya interrupts, standing straighter. "I've spent 3 years in this industry listening to people like you talk about natural hierarchies and certain types of people. I have a Stanford MBA, I speak 4 languages, and I've spent more time studying business ethics than you've probably spent thinking about anyone other than yourself." The silence that follows is deafening. Blackstone's companion stares in shock, her pen forgotten in her hand. Other diners have stopped eating, their attention drawn to the unfolding drama. "You little—" Blackstone begins, his voice rising, but Maya cuts him off again. "Sir, I'm going to ask you to lower your voice. This is a respectable establishment, and I won't have you disrupting other guests' dining experiences." What happens next unfolds in slow motion. Blackstone's face contorts with rage as he realizes he's being managed by someone he considers beneath him. He stands abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor with a harsh sound that echoes through the restaurant. "Do you have any idea who I am?" he snarls, his voice carrying across the room. "I could buy this entire restaurant and everyone in it. I could have you fired before you make it to the kitchen. I could—" "Sir," Maya says, her voice calm and professional, despite the storm raging inside her, "I need you to calm down or I'll have to ask you to leave." The words hang in the air like a challenge. Blackstone's eyes widen in disbelief, as if he's been slapped. Never in his 60 years has someone in the service industry dared to speak to him this way. "You're done," he says, his voice deadly quiet. "You're finished, not just here, but everywhere. I'll make sure you never work in this city again." Maya feels the familiar weight of defeat settling over her shoulders. She's seen this scenario before. The powerful man making threats, the inevitable call to management, the apologetic firing, the blacklisting that follows. But something is different this time. Instead of the usual crushing despair, she feels something else. Relief. The exhausting performance of swallowing her dignity is finally over. "I understand, sir," she says quietly. "Will there be anything else?" Blackstone stares at her for a long moment, as if trying to understand how his usual intimidation tactics have failed. Then he throws his napkin on the table and storms toward the exit, his companion hurrying after him with her notepad clutched to her chest. As the restaurant slowly returns to its normal rhythm, Maya stands alone beside the abandoned table, her heart pounding with the adrenaline of confrontation. She knows what comes next: the manager's office, the termination, the long walk home to her studio apartment to contemplate her uncertain future. What Maya doesn't know is that the journalist who witnessed the entire exchange, Sarah Martinez from the New York Business Journal, has been investigating Blackstone's companies for months. She's heard rumors about discriminatory hiring practices, about qualified candidates being passed over for cultural fit reasons, about a systematic pattern of bias that starts at the top and filters down through every level of her organization. What Maya also doesn't know is that the middle-aged man sitting quietly at table 8, who watched the entire confrontation with intense interest, is David Chen, founder of Chen Ventures and one of the most respected angel investors in the country. His net worth rivals Blackstone's, but his reputation stands in contrast, known for his ethical business practices and commitment to diversity and inclusion. As Maya walks toward the kitchen to face her inevitable termination, David Chen pulls out his phone and makes a call that will change everything. "Jennifer," he says to his assistant, "I need you to run a background check on someone, Maya Chen. She's a server at Le Bernardin, but I suspect there is much more to her story." The manager's office is exactly as Maya expected: cramped, windowless, and filled with the heavy atmosphere of uncomfortable conversations. Marcus Rodriguez, the restaurant's general manager, sits behind his desk with the expression of someone who's been forced to deliver bad news too many times. "Maya," he begins, his voice weary, "I sure you understand why we're here." "I know," Maya says, settling into the chair across from him. "Mr. Blackstone called?" Marcus nods, his expression sympathetic but resigned. "He's threatening to pull his business, and he's got connections throughout the city. He's also threatening to leave reviews that could seriously damage our reputation." Maya feels the familiar sting of injustice, but she's too tired to fight anymore. "I understand. I'll clear out my locker." "For what it's worth," Marcus says softly, "I agree with what you said to him. But I've got 43 employees depending on this place staying open, and I can't afford to lose customers like Blackstone." As Maya empties her locker, retrieving her spare uniform and the small photo of her parents that she keeps for motivation, she reflects on the path that led her here. 3 years ago, she was fresh out of Stanford, filled with optimism and certainty that her intelligence and work ethic would open doors. 63 job interviews later, she's learned that doors often remain closed for reasons that have nothing to do with qualifications. The walk home through Manhattan streets feels different tonight. The city's energy, usually overwhelming, seems muted and distant. Maya's mind races with practical concerns: rent due in 2 weeks, student loans that don't pause for unemployment, the growing stack of bills that already stretches her finances to the breaking point. What she doesn't know is that while she's walking home, Sarah Martinez is in her newsroom typing furiously on her laptop. The article that will appear in tomorrow's business section is already taking shape in her mind. The Blackstone Problem: How Systematic Discrimination Hides Behind Business Speak. What Maya also doesn't know is that David Chen is in his penthouse office reviewing the background check his assistant compiled in record time. Maya's academic records, her published research, her volunteer work with immigrant business owners, it all paints a picture of exactly the kind of person his companies desperately need. The next morning arrives gray and drizzly, matching Maya's mood as she sits in her studio apartment, laptop open to job search websites that all seem to blur together. The familiar routine of crafting cover letters and updating her resume feels mechanical and hopeless. She's just closed her laptop in frustration when her phone rings. "Is this Maya Chen?" asks an unfamiliar voice. "Yes, this is Maya." "This is Jennifer Walsh from Chen Ventures. Mr. Chen would like to meet with you today if you're available." Maya's heart skips. Chen Ventures? She knows the name. One of the most successful venture capital firms in the country, known for backing innovative startups and promoting diversity in tech. "I'm sorry, I think there might be some mistake. I didn't apply for any positions with Chen Ventures." "No mistake," Jennifer says cheerfully. "Mr. Chen saw your interaction with Richard Blackstone last night at Le Bernardin. He was quite impressed. Could you be here at 2? Maya's mind races. David Chen was there? He saw everything? Yes, I can be there." The Chen Ventures office occupies 3 floors of a gleaming tower in Midtown, its glass walls offering panoramic views of the city. As Maya rides the elevator to the 42nd floor, she tries to calm her racing pulse. She's changed into her best interview suit, a navy blue ensemble that she bought for her first job interview 3 years ago and has worn to every important meeting since. David Chen's office is nothing like she expected. Instead of the cold, intimidating space she associates with powerful executives, it's warm and inviting, with comfortable seating areas and walls lined with books. Chen himself is smaller than she imagined, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and the relaxed manner of someone who has nothing to prove. "Maya," he says, rising from his desk with a genuine smile, "thank you for coming on such short notice. Please, have a seat." Maya settles into a chair across from his desk, her hands folded in her lap to hide their trembling. "Mr. Chen, I want to apologize for what happened last night. I know my behavior was unprofessional." "Stop," Chen says gently. "You have nothing to apologize for. What I saw last night was someone standing up for their dignity in the face of systematic disrespect. That takes courage." Maya blinks in surprise. "Sir?" "I've been watching Richard Blackstone for years. His business practices, his treatment of employees, his attitude towards anyone he considers beneath him. What you did last night, refusing to enable his behavior, that's exactly the kind of integrity I look for in business partners." "Business partners?" Chen leans forward, his expression becoming more serious. "Maya, I've reviewed your background, your academic record, your published research, your volunteer work with immigrant business owners. It all paints a picture of exactly the kind of person his companies desperately need." Maya's heart pounds so loudly she's sure Chen can hear it. "I don't understand. Are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering you something better. I'm offering you the chance to build something of your own. I want to fund your startup." The words hang in the air like a miracle Maya doesn't dare believe. "A startup? Mr. Chen, I appreciate your confidence, but I don't have a business plan or—" "You have something more valuable than a business plan," Chen interrupts. "You have a deep understanding of the problems in corporate America, particularly around diversity and inclusion. You've lived those problems. You know where the system fails and why it fails." Maya's mind begins to race with possibilities. "What did you have in mind?" Chen pulls out a tablet and slides it across the desk. "I want you to develop a consulting firm that helps companies identify and eliminate unconscious bias in their hiring and promotion processes. Not just the obvious stuff, the subtle, systematic barriers that keep qualified people locked out of opportunities they've earned." Maya stares at the tablet, her reflection ghost-like in its dark screen. "You want me to help companies become more inclusive? I want you to help companies become more successful," Chen corrects. Study after study shows that diverse teams outperform homogeneous ones. Companies that embrace true meritocracy dominate their competition. But most executives don't know how to get there. They're trapped in systems that perpetuate the very biases that limit their success. The possibility takes shape in Maya's mind, like a sunrise breaking through clouds. A consulting firm focused on systematic change, not just sensitivity training. Exactly. Real structural change that makes businesses more profitable while creating opportunities for people like you, brilliant individuals who've been systematically excluded from positions where they could thrive. Maya looks up from the tablet, her eyes bright with possibility. How much funding are you talking about? $5 million to start, Chen says casually, as if discussing the weather. More if you can demonstrate traction within the first year. Maya's breath catches. $5 million, enough to build something real, something that could change the entire landscape of corporate America. Mr. Chen, I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it, Chen says with a smile. Take the weekend. If you're interested, we'll set up a meeting with my legal team next week to discuss terms. As Maya leaves the Chen Ventures office, her mind spinning with possibilities, she doesn't notice the black sedan parked across the street or the photographer with the telephoto lens capturing her exit. What Maya doesn't know is that Richard Blackstone has spent the morning making calls, using his influence to ensure that Maya Chen becomes unemployable in Manhattan's service industry. What he also doesn't know is that his efforts are about to backfire spectacularly. The New York Business Journal hits newsstands and inboxes at 6 a.m. sharp, and Sarah Martinez's article spreads through social media like wildfire. The Blackstone effect, how systematic discrimination hides behind business speak, doesn't just recount the restaurant incident. It exposes a pattern of discriminatory practices at Titan Industries that goes back decades. The article includes interviews with former employees, documentation of hiring disparities, and expert analysis of what Sarah calls the Blackstone effect. The way powerful executives use coded language and cultural fit criteria to exclude qualified candidates based on race, gender, and class. By 9 a.m., #Blackstone Effect is trending on social media. By noon, 3 major clients have announced they're reviewing their contracts with Titan Industries. By 3 p.m., the company's stock price has dropped 12%. Maya discovers the article when her phone starts buzzing with messages from former colleagues, friends, and complete strangers who've read the piece. Sarah Martinez has painted Maya not as a disgruntled server, but as a symbol of systematic exclusion, an SKNBA forced into service work by the very biases she's qualified to solve. The attention is overwhelming and uncomfortable, but it's also validating in a way Maya hasn't experienced in years. For the first time since graduating, she feels seen, not as a server or a diversity hire or a cultural fit question mark, but as a person with valuable insights and hard-won expertise. That evening, Maya sits in her studio apartment, laptop open to a blank document, and begins writing. Not a cover letter or a job application, but a business plan. The consulting firm David Chen proposed takes shape on her screen. Equity Dynamics, a company dedicated to identifying and eliminating the systematic barriers that prevent true meritocracy. As she writes, she realizes that every rejection letter, every condescending comment, every moment of being underestimated has prepared her for this opportunity. She understands the problems from the inside, not as an academic exercise, but as lived experience that gives her insights no traditional consultant could offer. The business plan grows from outline to detailed strategy, from concept to concrete implementation. She envisions a company that doesn't just train executives to recognize bias, but redesigns entire hiring and promotion systems to reward merit over connections, competence over culture fit, substance over superficial impressions. By midnight,
Maya has written 23 pages of the most focused, passionate work of her life. She's identified target markets, developed service offerings, rejected revenue streams, and outlined a growth strategy that could scale from local consulting to national impact. The next morning, Maya calls Jennifer Walsh at Chen Ventures. "I'm ready to discuss terms," she says, her voice steady with newfound confidence. The meeting takes place in Chen Ventures' main conference room, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a view of the city that Maya is about to help transform. David Chen sits at the head of the table, flanked by his legal team and senior partners. Maya sits across from them, her business plan open on the table between them. "Before we begin," Chen says, "I want you to know that the response to yesterday's article has been extraordinary. I've received calls from 12 Fortune 500 companies asking about consulting services for exactly the kind of work you've outlined. The market is ready for what you're proposing." Maya's heart pounds with excitement and terror. 12 companies? "Including 3 that are direct competitors of Titan Industries," Chen adds with a slight smile. Apparently, Richard Blackstone's behavior has created a significant business opportunity for his competition. The irony isn't lost on Maya. Blackstone's attempt to destroy her career has instead created the perfect launch conditions for her company. His public demonstration of the exact problem she's equipped to solve has become the best marketing campaign she could have imagined. The contract negotiations proceed smoothly. Chen's terms are generous, $5 million in initial funding, with Maya retaining majority ownership and full operational control. Additional funding will be available based on performance metrics, with the potential for Chen Ventures to help Equity Dynamics expand internationally within 3 years. As Maya signs the documents that will transform her from unemployed server to funded entrepreneur, she thinks about the journey that brought her here. Every closed door, every rejection, every moment of being underestimated has led to this opportunity to build something that will open doors for others. 3 months later, Equity Dynamics occupies a full floor of a midtown office building. Maya's team includes former executives who've experienced discrimination, recent graduates who understand the current challenges, and researchers who can quantify the business impact of inclusive practices. Their first major client is Meridian Financial, an investment firm that wants to understand why their diverse hiring initiatives aren't translating into diverse leadership. Maya's team spends 6 weeks analyzing Meridian's processes, from job postings to performance reviews, and identifies 17 specific points where unconscious bias systematically excludes qualified candidates. The recommendations aren't just theoretical, they're practical, measurable changes that can be implemented immediately. New interview protocols that focus on demonstrated skills rather than cultural fit. Performance review systems that eliminate subjective language. Mentorship programs that connect high-potential employees with sponsors who can advocate for their advancement. Within 6 months of implementing Equity Dynamics recommendations, Meridian's promotion rates for women and minorities increase by 43%. More importantly, the company's overall performance improves, with diverse teams consistently outperforming homogeneous ones on key metrics. Word spreads quickly through the business community. Equity Dynamics' client list grows to include tech startups, manufacturing companies, law firms, and consulting groups. Each engagement proves the same fundamental truth. Companies that embrace true meritocracy don't just become more fair, they become more profitable. Maya's success story becomes a case study in business schools, an example of how lived experience can create unique market opportunities. She's invited to speak at conferences, consulted by government agencies, and profiled in the same magazines that once wouldn't respond to her job applications. But the most satisfying moment comes 6 months after Equity Dynamics' launch, when Maya receives a call from Marcus Rodriguez, the general manager of Lebanon. "Maya," he says, his voice warm with genuine respect. "I wanted to let you know that we've hired Equity Dynamics to review our hiring and promotion practices. I realize I should have made this call months ago, but I was hoping you'd consider coming in to discuss our engagement personally." Maya smiles, looking out the window of her corner office at the city that once seemed impermeable to her ambitions. "I'd be happy to meet with you, Marcus, but I should mention that my consulting fees are quite a bit higher than my server wages." The laughter that follows is genuine and healing, a sound that represents the transformation of a relationship from employer-employee to equal business partners. As Maya hangs up the phone, she reflects on the unexpected path that led her here. Richard Blackstone's attempt to destroy her career became the catalyst for her greatest success. His systematic exclusion of qualified people created the very market opportunity that made her company possible. The final irony comes a year later, when Titan Industries, facing mounting pressure from clients and shareholders, quietly reaches out to Equity Dynamics for consulting services. The same company whose CEO tried to blacklist Maya is now paying her firm to solve the problems his leadership created. Maya accepts the engagement not for revenge, but for the opportunity to create systematic change at one of the most influential companies in the country. She knows that transforming Titan Industries will send a message throughout American corporate world. The era of casual discrimination disguised as business judgment is ending. The morning of Maya's first presentation to Titan Industries' board of directors, she stands in her office, looking out at the city that once seemed closed to her possibilities. She's wearing a tailored suit that costs more than she used to make in a month. But more importantly, she's wearing the confidence that comes from building something meaningful. Her phone buzzes with a text from David Chen. "Proud of you. Change the world." Maya smiles, gathering her presentation materials and heading toward the elevator. In 18 months, she's gone from serving drinks to serving justice, from being underestimated to being indispensable, from being excluded to being the one who opens doors for others. The elevator doors close, and Maya Chen, founder and CEO of Equity Dynamics, rises toward a meeting that will help reshape corporate America. Behind her, the city spreads out like a map of possibilities, not just for her, but for every qualified person who's been told they're not quite the right fit. In the end, Maya learned that sometimes the best response to a closed door isn't to knock harder, but to build a better door for everyone who comes after you. Sometimes the most powerful act of resistance isn't fighting the system, but creating a new system that works for everyone. And sometimes the people who try to hold you back end up giving you exactly what you need to soar higher than they ever imagined possible.